Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the True Life Podcast. We are here with the one and only Tommy Carrigan of the TPC podcast, potentially the hardest working man in podcasting, doing 3 shows a day. He's talked to bankers. He has talked to Delta Force. He has talked to some of the best authors in the world, and he is still 31 years old. He's made some big changes in his life. Tommy, introduce yourself a little bit.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I'm Tommy Carrigan. I'm 31 years old, and I have a podcast, Tommy's Podcast. That's the shortest possible answer. I started it kind of on a whim in December 2019, and really have just let my OCD, psychopathic work ethic take over. It's in middle school it was basketball, in high school it was weightlifting, in college it was pre-med, a little bit after college it was Photoshop, and then I guess one day in 2019 I was like, fuck it, I'm going to start talking. And I just haven't shut up since. That's what I do.
I'm glad you do it, man. And I think that you've gone out of your way to show people who you are. I like that you don't hide stuff, man. You come out and you talk about things that you think are important, regardless of what other people think. You're not afraid to, hey, say what you think. And that's a very important issue. In the beginning, one of the things that really got me listening to your podcast was a story about how you started your podcast. It seemed like you had this path that you were on. You were doing weightlifting. You went to Georgia. You graduated cum laude. You were going to med school. You had this preconceived notion of what your life was going to be. And then, be it a mushroom trip or graduation or pressure, something changed. Can you share people what happened there?
Yeah, so I was dead set on getting into medical school. It's all I did. I mean, studied around. When I say that's all I did, I mean, if you think I work hard at the podcast, Jesus Christ in heaven, you should have seen me in college trying to get into medical school, studying around the clock. It's just, so I really can't emphasize that enough. That's just all I did. But I don't want to go into that because it's boring. It's all I did. All I did. And, I liked the idea of it. I was terrified my freshman year. I kind of partied, almost failed out, was just kind of an idiot. And my sophomore year, I got way too high. Like my first night of my sophomore year was like, had just moved into the frat house. And I was like, oh my God, I need to get my life together. And it's kind of like a joke, when people are like, hold my beer. But I mean, I was literally like, hold my beer, I'm going to bed. And then I was wrong. I was like, I need to go to the library tomorrow. And everybody was like, the fuck? So I went to the library. Then classes hadn't even started. Like, that was weird. And then I did it like the next day. My friends were like, that was kind of weird too. And then I did it all week. And then all next week. And then all month. And then next month, and then the whole semester, and then the next semester, and then I transferred to the University of Georgia and kind of like reunited with all my buddies from high school, and I did it again. They were like, what the fuck? So that's all I was doing. And a lot of it was from fear, but it was also out of like a genuine desire to help people. And I think I liked the idea of Dr. Carrigan being in a white coat, always have a job. Doesn't matter what war there is. Doesn't matter if the country dissolves. People need doctors. And I was like, I'll just have to learn it. So just live anywhere you want. Every town needs a doctor. But also, it was just like, I'll always have enough money. I'll be respected. Because I was never a good student before this. Never. So there's a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. And it was also just like, I never want the fear of like things just not going well. And so there was some love, but there was a ton of fear. And that's not really fear can get you a good ways. Fear's not bad. Hunter S. Thompson said that fear is like an animal. Have it pull your chariot, but keep it in front of you and keep a 12 gauge trained on the back of its head. Let it pull you places, but if it turns on you, blow its fucking head off. Fear's good. I'm a big proponent of fear. But as someone that was meditating every day, you can't, and mind you, I was not even meditating for the right reasons. It's like you take mushrooms and it's like, oh, you open up to the world and you find out like the Viking berserkers were taking mushrooms so they could kill more. And you're like, no, wrong, It's discovering nuclear energy and going like, we can power the world. And it's like, or we could nuke Hiroshima. And it's like, oh, we were so close. I was meditating. I started in high school kind of just like on a whim, not really meaning to. But in college, I had this realization. I was like, wait, when I like meditate, I'm really focused for like 90 minutes afterwards. No internal monologue, no. And as anybody that's ADD can kind of relate to it, I was like, oh, so I could like study for 90 minutes. And then I could meditate for 20 minutes. Then I could study for another 90 minutes. and I could just do this for 14 hours a day. And that's how I got into medical school. So it's like so close. You're discovering the self. But I was like, let's use it as a weapon. And like, that's what I did. And I did use it as a weapon. And I'm still proud of it. I fucked up everybody. I destroyed the curve. A lot of people failed out because of me. I will never apologize for that. Fuck, get some. But what you can't do it forever without also meditation sort of taking a toll on you in the most positive way. You start to become sort of, not to sound like some enlightened hippie douche, because I'm not, but you sit alone with your thoughts. You're not hiding on scrolling through. It's like that meme. Why do you always scroll through Reddit? So I don't have to face my own thoughts. And there's some truth to that. But when you sit with them every day, including like your anxieties and your this and your that, you get really in tuned with also like, fuck, do I want to do this forever? Once the anxiety of can I do this goes away. First semester I got 4.0. I'd never done that before. Second, third, fourth. Now the fear's gone that, well, I'll never be able to ace OChem, but then you ace OChem. Well, I'll never be able to ace physics, and then you ace. So the fear goes away. You now know you can. Do I want to do this? Well, I have to do this. You have to be a doctor. I don't want to do it. It's a tough world out there. Dad grew up in poverty, climbed his way out. I'm like, no, work harder. All right. And then, another month would go by. And then it'd start to just creep up again. Is this really what I want to do? I started to notice that when I would go out, I'd go out like once a month with my friends. That, sure, the partying was fun. But even the next day, just laying around hungover and not doing anything, I was just grinning like an idiot. And I remember one of my roommates, he was this big fat redneck. I remember he looked at me, he goes, Tommy, the fact that you have so much fun on an off day going to Walmart, maybe you're not happy with what you're doing. And it was wildly profound. And I was like, I shouldn't be this happy hungover just because I'm not studying. But, like a good Anglo-Saxon, you suppress those feelings. Like a good Irish pig, you say, fuck off, and you keep working harder, right? Because life is suffering. But every once in a while, I would also just like smoke a little pot by myself, which I always loved doing by myself. And it would just come in and it'd be like, dude, is this really what you want to do? Is this really what you want to do? I don't know what else I could do. No, I just got to keep working, And it started to creep in more and more. And I don't remember what the flipping point was. I'd already gotten in. And it was the day after I graduated. I was like, I gotta go in. They always say when, doing psychedelics for the first time, make sure you're in a good place mentally. I was like, I'm at like had just graduated, had just started dating a girl a couple months prior. First serious girlfriend of my life. Knew my older brother was suffering from depression for years. He lived in Atlanta. I was in Athens. Other brother lived in North Carolina. Other brother lived in Maryland. Parents were in Maryland, moving to New Hampshire. I'm from New Hampshire. All my friends here in Georgia are got into medical school in Miami. Everything's tugging at me. And instead of being in a good place, I was like, well, let's dump acid onto my brain. Not acid, mushrooms. And I went and did that with one of my best friends. I went and sat in just kind of like a field of grass. It was like a December day up in his lake house. December in Georgia is not cold. It's kind of cold. But when you're in the sun, it's still beautiful. We went up on a weekday, so there's no one there. We're on just kind of this like mountainside at his lake house. And we just sat in a field for like 7 hours. And I mean, all cliches aside, giggling, we're funny. And then, of course, like you see the trees breathing and all that good shit. And that's all right. That's all well and good. But I remember like the overwhelming thought I had. So mind you, that first day, my sophomore year of college, when I got way too high and realized I was fucked, holding my beer, I got to be a doctor. And then I just did it for 4 years. I had that almost like a deja vu of that. But this time it was the opposite. It wasn't out of fear. There was this thing that was like, I just remember like the overwhelming feeling. I didn't hear a voice, but it was like a voice was telling me like, life can be love. And it's not some idyllic, let's all hold hands in a field and, you know, form a cult and fuck each other. Like, no, that's not realistic. Those always turn into communes, which turn into communisms, or they turn into mass suicide cults. I don't have any false notions about those, right? But it was just like, and by the way, cut me off at any point if I'm boring you.
Not at all, man. It's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. So it was like, life just doesn't have to be this like nonstop grind where, you know, you're in the gym. When the workout gets easy, it's time to dial up the weights. Like, the gym is supposed to be hard. That's why you're going. But if I would study all day and still have straight A's, I'd be like, something's wrong because I should be studying till exhaustion. Like, no, you studied you're finished now. Go have fun. No, I need to keep working. And I kind of had that realization that, like, life can be love. And so, unlike college, where it got way too high and was like, I want to be a doctor, there was actually a path, right? You go out, you go to your advisor, take the classes you got to take, and you can study nonstop. There is an end point. You can see it on the horizon. It's 3 years away. I got to do X, Y, and Z to get it. And it's difficult, but I can do it. You can climb Mount Everest, but there is a path. Cool. I didn't even have a goal. I was just sitting there and I was like, I want to be my own boss. Still work hard, but be happy. And so with that, I sent a letter to the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. 15,000 students applied and 100 got in. And I said, hey, thanks, but no thanks. And told my mom, dad, and girlfriend, they're all like, the fuck? And, you know, and then a couple months later, my older brother took his life. So it's like, that was really, at that point, I was like, well, I'm not in a mental place to go to medical school. So that was great. That was all well and good. So my first thought was like, I think I want to go to pharmacy school. Because when I wanted to go to medical school, I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. And I was like, oh, I could still go study drugs. That's cool. Got into pharmacy school. And I was like, hey, thanks, but no thanks. I think I want to go to online pharmacy school. So now another year passed. Got into online pharmacy school. And then I was like, yeah, I just don't want to do this. Thank you. So now everyone's kind of like, what the fuck? At this point, I've been doing a lot of drugs. Clonazepam, taking tons of like NyQuil at night, drinking, just did stimulants during the day, gained a lot of weight, really not taking care of myself, doing like delivery jobs. Like, all I wanted to do was just like sit in a bed with a bong. Like, and so I was going farther and farther down. And then like, I kind of broke off the path of like, life can be love. And I was just like, fuck it, self-medication. And fell way down into the slog, became very suicidal in summer 2016, moved home to my parents' house in Maryland. And that was like a 5-year-long rebirth. Like, not long after that, girlfriend broke up with me. Don't blame her at all. I was a piece of shit. All my friends lived in Georgia. I kind of lost touch with all of them. Really just lived with my parents at 26 like a fucking loser, doing therapy, getting sober, exercising. And like an absolute arrogant piece of shit at the bottom of the bottom, when that fear should kick in, you go, okay, I should just go back to medical school. I was like, no, I still want to be my own boss. You know, Jesus Christ. And so like, I was like, I want to do writing. And then like, I did that for like 6 months. I was like, I want to do comedy, and did that for like 6 months. Like, I want to do video editing. I tried to make my own, like The Onion. I tried to make like my own Onion, kind of like satirical news like site. That didn't work. Picked up Photoshop and actually stuck with that for like 3 years. Got really good, self-taught. But it just wasn't panning out. And I don't remember exactly what was the catalyst for starting the podcast. But it wasn't the first time that thought had popped up. It had come up before, like years prior. I wanted to do it with some friends. But, you know, they don't want to do it. Okay, I don't want to do it. And at that point, I had sort of I was very hesitant of going balls deep into anything because I didn't want to go, even though I was in a bad spot, I also didn't want to go back to where I was as pre-med because I was miserable. That work ethic, that psychopathic OCD work ethic was miserable. And so it was kind of like Pavlovian, like I had almost associated that with negativity. It's not that I wasn't capable of it, as I clearly show, It was just like, I don't want to go down that. And then it kind of dawned on me. It was like there are things, as Ram Dass would say, he's like, you can be meditating and be a spirit of light and communing with the gods. There's no reason to not know your zip code. Like, you live in reality. And I always love that, because it's like, hey, mushrooms, great, meditation, love, earth, everything. How you paying rent, dipshit? Right? And I had been avoiding that for a while. I was like, oh, it'll just work out. No, it did not. It didn't just work out. The narrator, it did not. And I don't know if it's maturity, if it was just trial and failure. And I'm glossing over this, but mind you, like, I was at home for 5 years. 5 fucking years. Of no friends, of no partying, no social life, of no sex, of nothing. Just fucking living with your parents. Love my parents to death. Go try living with your parents from 26 to 31. You'll blow your fucking head off. Right? All the while having no prospect. It wasn't even like, when I had no idea when anything was going to work out. And so starting the podcast, I don't remember what the catalyst was. I just had a MacBook. I'm really trying to remember, like, I mean, I always joke and say I'd started watching Rogan when he first started in 2011. And I love Rogan. And I was like, oh, I'm smarter than him. I could do this. And like, I joke about, I fucking love Rogan. He helped me so much in college. But I just remember kind of like, I remember it was December 12th, 2019. And I was like, yeah, I kind of want to just like talk to people. I know I can talk to people. Like, how hard could this be? And I just started. And I did, like, at first I was like, let's take it easy. I did 1 episode a week. And after like 5 episodes, I was like, oh wait, I'm in charge. I can interview anybody I want. And so I would just go on Reddit and like find a guest. Be like, oh wait. I started working harder and harder and harder. I remember what started. Sorry. Thanksgiving 2019. I was with my cousin Chris up at my aunt's house. My family was all together. And he was just drinking, and he and I were sitting on like a couch. We were joking about like, what if we just went and hijacked a cruise ship? And no, what if we hijacked the cruise ship and we drove it into like an island, like out in the middle of the Pacific, and we would just create our own society. We'd be warlords. We'd be arriving with food and water and medicine. We would take over the local peoples, but we'd be too small on the map for the U.S. to really care, and we would just kind of become warlords. And I was sober, and he was shit-faced, and we had this conversation for like an hour and a half. And his fiance was on like speakerphone, just kind of listening to us. And at the end of it, in like her New York accent, she was like, that was fantastic. You guys should do a podcast. And so me and my cousin Chris and my cousin Tim, we started a podcast called Warlords. We did like 5 episodes. And naturally, I was like, let's do 2 episodes a day. And they were like, yo, let's do 1 episode a week. And I was like, we should interview this guy. And they're like, nah, let's just have fun. And so after like 5 episodes, I was like, hey, love y'all. I'm going to start my own. And just was off to the races. And I mean, from there till now, it's kind of just been like one, like, just blur. Just working harder, getting guests, improving the audio, the camera, the visual, the lighting, uploading to multiple platforms, trying to hone my my ability to talk more, know when to cuss, when to not, when to have this, when is it a very serious, when can you dick around, when can you, just all these things. And then starting to do like almost like news things, because there are topical things, but you don't want to just do news, because then there's no re-listen value, right? You can't go back and listen to a newscast from a year ago. It's old. You know what happened. So like, sure, you can cover things happening in Ukraine, but you also want to like have on authors who what they're talking about, like that episode holds up 5 years from now, because you're talking about like the history of World War II or something. And it's just been this spiraling, maniacal, I'm just allowed to dump all of my work into it. There's nothing worse than when you beat a video game, because you're like, fuck, I maxed out my character, like just Ghost Recon. I'm playing Wildlands again. My guy is a demigod. He is maxed out. He has an optical camouflage a suit on. He has a sniper rifle that can one-shot helicopters. He can call in rebel support. He can call in mortars. All my weapons are maxed out, silenced, high speed. I'm spawning a mile above enemy bases. I'm scanning shit in thermal. I'm knocking out motherfuckers. I'm EMPing the generators, taking down the alarms, blocking off the entrances, mortar fire here, hop on a minigun there, eat a dick. Like, it's great, but I beat the game. There's nothing else to fucking do. I can't level anything else up. I can't call in missiles. There are no missiles in the game. I'm maxed out. So I have to go to another game. And then you do that. And you play Just Cause. And you unlock everything. Or Ace Combat. To the point where you've got like the Area 51 DARPA, the hypersonic strike aircraft. And it's great and it's fun. But then you beat the game on Expert. You get every achievement. You unlock every skin. Now what? Nothing. There's nothing to do now. And so you have to move on to the next game.
You know what you do right there? Like, right when you beat the game, you write a letter to the medical school and say, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to move home with my parents.
Yeah, that's what you fucking do. You say, oh, yeah, I don't want, I'm done.
Does that, like, that's a full pattern right there, though, right? Can you see that as a pattern? You're like, I beat the fucking game right when I went to college. Why should I keep playing?
Well,
I can do it online. Why should I keep playing?
That one's a little different in that medical school is pre-med on steroids. So you could have kept going, and then after medical school, there's residency, which is medical school on steroids, and after residency is fellowship, and then after that is becoming like a practicing doctor. So like that game could have kept going. I just wasn't happy with that one. But what I love about this, and it probably speaks more than anything, is I don't think there's a ceiling on this. I can work. You know, one of a great book that also led to me not going to medical school is called House of God by Samuel Shem. It's a pen name, but it's a guy that was in Harvard Medical School and Harvard residency in the 70s. And it's just the abject depravity. There was no rules back then. They could work residents like 120 hours a week. They were smoking meth in closets. They're fucking the nurses. They're all on Valium and like amphetamines. And they're taking morphine and shit. They were so fucked up. And just like zombies. One guy killed himself. He jumped off the roof. Like this shit was insane. And but there's one guy in the book, I forget his, I think they called him Fats because he's just a fat guy. But he was like a brilliant kid. You know, the kind of kid that could study for an hour and beat everybody. And he asks him, he's like, Fats, why don't you just go become like an investment banker or something? Because he was gunning to be like a surgeon so he could make the most money. They're like, dude, Fats, you could go be a billionaire. And his answer was like, I'll never beat medicine. He was like, it's the most advanced Rubik's Cube. You can never understand it all. You can never understand what every protein is doing, what every cell is doing. There will always be a disease that evades you. I can sink my teeth into this forever. And that's kind of how I feel about this podcast. Is I have all my own, I got to break 100 subscribers, got to break 1,000, got to break 10,000. Right now I'm at 10,566. Okay, I got to get to 10,567. 5,080, whatever the fuck, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, 100,000, million, 10 million. Got to keep going. I want to be okay. I want to beat Rogan. Okay, well, who's above Rogan? I guess PewDiePie. Okay, I want to get past PewDiePie. Like, I want to get to 1 billion subscribers. Well, then what? I don't know. But then you can just keep going higher and higher, and there is no ceiling. You can get to a point where you start like affecting real change in the world. You know, like Rogan isn't just observing. He changes now. People come on and like it changes the narrative. Well, I've already interviewed guys running for Congress and stuff, and I've helped them like get in touch with other people. So on like a very small scale, I'm already kind of poking and prodding the world. I'm like, well, what's the upper limits of this? Of course, my mind isn't like, I just want to like, share, and subscribe. I'm like, if I do this for 20 years, can I re-affect like the geopolitical arrangement of countries on the planet? It's the best game ever. I think that maybe answers your question. To tell you a little bit about myself. That was what, the 25-minute rant?
That was awesome, man. That might be one of my favorite rants so far. I think it spoke volumes of your character and your personality and why it is that you do the things you do. And you know, it seems to me that the beginning Photoshop, the comedy, the editing, these are all like your freshman, sophomore, and junior year of podcasting. Like you've incorporated all of those things into what you do now and probably helped accelerate where you're at right now. I also think it's fascinating that, you know, as someone who likes to talk to people and enjoys conversations. When you're doing what you're doing, you're forced to have multiple conversations in your head while you're talking to someone because you want the content to be well. You want it to be received well. You're watching for pauses and facial, ticks. And oh my gosh, is the audience going to like that? And that in itself, for someone who has ADHD or ADD or bipolar or any of these things, is really fun because you're like, okay, now I can focus because I got 7 things going on and I finally feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So it's awesome to hear about that. Let me ask you this one.
Sure.
So you have had so many great guests on your podcast. The first people, one of the youngest men, I think the youngest, Charlie Kirk, was he the youngest man to walk on the moon?
Charlie Duke, youngest man to walk on the moon.
Charlie Duke. You've had the banker from Switzerland, Brad Birkenfield.
Yeah. The
great podcast.
Lucifer's Banker. That book is fucking great too.
It is George Webb, who's, I think, one of the most underrated journalists in the world right now. He's on often. You got Peter Duke. You have so many, Mike Ford. I really enjoyed that one yesterday. You have so many great people on there. What have you noticed a difference in who you are, Tommy Carrigan, since you began talking to these people and having interesting and some might even say politically changing conversations with people? You've had a lot of in-depth stuff with a lot of professional, intelligent people. Can you see the changes in yourself since you started having these conversations?
In myself, it's definitely harder because it's it's like when you're losing weight or building muscle, you look at yourself in the mirror every day, you never see the change, but then you look at a picture from yourself 6 months apart, you're either like, Jesus, I got fat, or you're like, fuck yeah, you can kind of see like my jawbone again. You're like, cool. That's hard. I imagine I could just go back and watch an earlier episode, probably see some glaring differences. In terms of like me, in terms of like how I present, I try to swear less. I'm much more confident in who I am now. I have no problem just being like, well, respectfully disagree, instead of like, yeah, I'll suck your dick. It's just like, hey, agree to disagree. Not in a disparaging way. I try to not just come balls out with my opinions right away. It's definitely humbled me in that you cannot interview so many intelligent people who hold such wildly different political beliefs than me and not sit there and go, maybe I don't know everything. I'm a conservative guy. I like Trump. When you interview Richard Rhodes, a Pulitzer Prize winning author in his 80s, and he is the antithesis of that, and he's a liberal leaning guy, you don't go, well, this idiot doesn't know what he's talking about. You go, huh? We both got to the top of the mountain. We took different paths. That doesn't make his path wrong. It's very easy to look at someone that you don't like and don't respect and go, own the libs, or own the conservatards. But when you interview like a wildly intelligent person, progressive person, and then you find out that they have the exact opposite political views as your own, if you're a retard, you go, dude, that guy's stupid. If you have half a brain cell, you go, maybe we just see the world differently. Maybe he has a piece of information that I don't have, that if I had, I'd see his viewpoint. And then maybe he gives you the information, you go, oh, we're looking at the same swath of colors. This is one analogy I always use. You're liberal, you're blue, you're conservative, you're red. It is possible that the red guy has never seen the color blue. And if you showed it to him, he might go, oh, that's me. And vice versa. But there's also a point where you both have the full color swath, like one of those like Sherman-Williams paint things. And you go, yeah, no, I can see all the colors. No, you see all the colors. I just like red. I just like blue. And if you're a mature adult, you go, oh, we just see the world differently. I'm from New England. I don't really pay attention to sports. But let's just say I like the Red Sox. My uncle is a brilliant investor. He's from the Bronx. He likes the Yankees. Is he stupid? Sure, he can make the fucking Yankees. Is he objectively stupid? No, he's wildly successful and wildly wealthy and a respectable individual. Am I a bad? I don't think I'm a bad person. Oh, we just like different things. And when you look at it from that place, this is why I think I get a lot of shit of, fence riding, or you try to see both ways, or you... No, it's just because there's a point where, I remember my uncle said, my late uncle, before he passed, he was a surgeon, and he goes, if you're smart, you should be smart enough to know how smart you're not. And like, so it's sure when I have on like the Delta Force guys and, we're all, making fun of, sure, that's fun. It's goofing. It's kind of the equivalent of like having a beer, all just talking shit. But no, the reason why I still keep an open mind to the opposite viewpoint of my own is because my personal experiences of 854 episodes. You cannot interview so many different nuclear physicists, fictional authors, guys that have walked on the fucking moon, guys that have been in Delta Force, guys that are in construction, who work on submarines, or who are a political pundit, or work in the intelligence community, or a professor at Yale or Harvard. You can't talk to them all and then go, well, some of them are smart because they have my opinions. The other ones are getting there. No, you got to go, oh, Jesus, it's a big old fucking world out there. And so to answer your question, how have I changed? On the cursory delivery, I'm more confident in saying, like, well, I agree to disagree, but you probably have a point. Try to swear less, which I'm not doing now at all, because this is, again, kind of read it, you be more relaxed. But I definitely go into everything now, and I'm like, I might be wildly incorrect. And it's not scary. It's very, people say, like, I don't want to put my opinion out there because in 5 years I'll look back and be like, oh, Jesus Christ, I was so wrong. But to me, I'm like, dude, that's growth. Why would you not want to grow? You don't look back at yourself and go, oh, I used to be a twig. You're like, no, you were a twig and you went to the gym and now you're not a twig. Like, so I'll look back at early episodes and be like, oh, God, that was so narrow-minded. Noted, don't be that person anymore. That's how I think I have changed. And I can only imagine in a year I'll look back at this episode and just be shaking my head and be like, that fucking moron, thinking he knows the whole world. And I can only hope a year after that I'll have this, because that means you're growing. So I don't know if that answers your question at all, if I even attempted to answer it. How have I changed? Humble. More humble. Not objectively humble. I am a cocky, arrogant asshole.
It's hard to be humble when you're the best. You know what I mean?
Listen, I'm humbly the best. I'm the most humble. No, it's realizing that you maybe don't have the big picture.
Yeah, and that is growth. One thing I've learned in my life that I've made tons of mistakes is just because you're good at one thing doesn't mean you're good at everything. And one thing I've found good about podcasting, and I'm curious if you share this, is the ability to see that thing in the other. Like if you have an opinion or you see that thing you recognize in the other person. And I may not be doing a great job of explaining what that thing is, but it's that ability to be objective for me. It's that ability to see someone handle a conversation in a way that makes me jealous or makes me want to grow. Like, oh, I see what happened there. This guy tried to corner him in a conversation, and instead of fighting out of that corner, he just pushed him right aside and helped him.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if you see that in the conversations when you talk to people, and you can like notice that thing and then incorporate it into your style.
Yeah, it's very easy to be that sort of like humble, like maybe I don't know everything. When you're talking to someone else who is like, again, Richard Rhodes, he's not stupid. He's watched my other episodes. He knows like I'm a Trump guy. He still comes on.
Yeah.
And when you see that maturity in someone else, it rubs off on you. And you're like, oh, we're not doing politics here. We're talking about the history of nuclear weapons. Like it's very easy to be humble and respectful when you're with another humble and respectful person. What's the trick? The trick is when you're with some narrow-minded douchebag that goes, no. I am the only right one. We have the whole color swath. There's an objectively best color. That is where it's like your time to really put into practice. And you don't tell them, hey, you should be humble and open-minded. You just nod. And you try to be like an open area for them to just, it's like sometimes the best therapists don't say a word. They'll just let you say it all and then you realize it on your own. Sometimes there's nothing else to do but just nod. You can maybe try to gently nudge the conversation one way or another. Sometimes they're really stuck on something There's nothing else to do but just, sure, oh yeah, no, yeah, I get it, fuck yeah, I get that, yeah. And then sometimes it's even fun to just start agreeing with them. It's like a mental exercise, not even to fuck with them, but I mean truly to be like, fuck it, let's see where they're coming from. Let's see why Biden is the best president ever. Not even ironically, be like, I'm gonna drink the Kool-Aid. Let's do this. And that's fascinating because when you do that, so if you come on right away clashing, you know, I'm Tommy, I don't like Biden. I'm having on Bob who likes Biden. You've immediately set up a friction, even if you both are going to be very mature and humble about it and respectful. You've immediately set up this dichotomy where the other guy's on the defensive. Even though you're being very shaking hands about it, it's still, you know, you're going at it. And you might go, well, that's the best way to learn about the other guy's viewpoint is by being respectful. And it's better than just yelling at him, sure, but it's not the best way. The best way, like the fucking real, like, judo black magic way, is to not let them know that you disagree with them, is to actually agree with them. Because then they think they're just talking to someone that has the same views as them. And when you're together like that, that's when you open up even more. And so you see what they really think, as opposed to them trying to give you these canned, clean answers because we're having this respectful debate. No, you make them feel comfortable, like you guys are just boys hanging out, having a drink, and you guys agree with each other. You're much more candid with each other. And when you're more candid with each other, that is when you start to see what they really think. And when you get into what they really think, sometimes it actually makes sense. You go, oh, this guy isn't just a dumb shitlib. He has like a friend that, you know, or a parent that died of this, and they actually couldn't afford. Oh, this guy is actually a first-generation immigrant. Yeah, okay, it kind of makes sense how he looks at Trump and goes, yeah, you're not fucking deporting my parents. You go, I do get that. If someone tried to deport my parents, and then you start going like, you drank the Kool-Aid as a joke, but now you're going like, I get it. And you're like, fuck. And like, you still believe your initial point, but that's how you start to like see the other person as not just someone you disagree with, but you actually see like there's like a conscious individual with a life of experience behind the eyes. And you go, the exception is as long as no one's hurting each other. If it's someone looking at me telling me like why the Jews must die, I'm like, bro, I just can't. I can't. I can't. Like, see where you're coming from. You're very well spoken. I'm sorry, Mr. Hezbollah. We cannot have this conversation. But as long as no one's hurting each other, sure, I'll lean into it. Tell me why. Tell me why. Sure. And when you stop trying to beat them, but instead just detach and look at it as like a puzzle, I just want to figure out who they are. And not even in some like, I want to figure out who they are so I can do a gotcha moment. Oh, no, just fuck off. Just look at it as like, pretend no one's watching. That's like one reason why like I don't do it live. And I'm not shitting on you. I know you're doing it live. Most people do it live. That's why I'm not doing it live. Because I always want them, and I always let the person know it's not live, because I want them to feel like, hey, there's nobody watching. And there's always the beautiful offer of like, we don't even have to upload this episode. And when you give them that, and I always tell them, I'm like, hey, record it too. Don't fucking, don't rely on me to be objective. When you do that, that is the beauty in it. And I think for me, sort of answer your question, like, what do I see that in people? What makes me like jealous of that? It's episode 82 or 83. I had on this guy, John Romanello. I don't really know anything about. He's like an author. He used to be Arnold Schwarzenegger's personal trainer. He's like, multi-millionaire, self-made. Dude looks like a male model. He's built as fuck. He's eloquent. You just look at him, you're like, dude, fuck you. And I don't remember how I got in touch with him. He's a pretty like well-known name. I think I got in touch with him before I even started the podcast. I think I might have just like sent him a Photoshop, and he was like, oh, that's cool. This guy, there couldn't be a more different person politically than he and I. And I remember just bugging him to come on the podcast. And he's probably looking at me, and I'm screaming about Trump, and I have 4 subscribers. He's probably like, what the fuck? But it was during COVID, and he and his fiance were like, they were stuck like quarantining, and one day he was just like, fuck it, I'll come on. And that guy, having never known me, you could just feel it coming off of him. He truly just like exuded love. And in his mind, he was probably like, this kid's retarded. But he sat there and like nodded and just let me go. And we ended up like getting on the topic of my brother. And that's the only time I've ever cried on a podcast. And it was just like it's still to this day, it's my favorite episode. I'm in like a shitty orange jacket. I'm above my parents' garage. It's echoing. It's on a MacBook. It's like 480p resolution. It's horrible. The lighting's all fucked up. But it's still my favorite episode. Because that guy was just completely like present in the moment. And like let me like weave around. And just like left on a loving note. That's like what I try to aim for. Yeah. Because another thing is when you finally acknowledge that you don't have all the answers and maybe your political view isn't correct, you stop looking at yourself as someone who should be responsible for like changing the world. You're like, well, why should I? What if I'm incorrect? You know, if I have bad eyesight, like I shouldn't be the surgeon. You're right. I shouldn't fly Air Force One. How right you are. You know, like, oh, okay. So you look at it like kind of like that. So when you stop, some people say, oh, that's apathy or that's digging your head. No, I don't think I'm apathetic. I think my interviews show very much otherwise. But when you take yourself off the pedestal of like, I know what is correct, it allows you to stop looking at things as adversarial. And I need to show this guy why he's wrong. I gotta own the libs. No, you sort of become detached. But detached in the best way. Because you're kind of okay with being completely incorrect. And it's a very like the first moment of humility is like after you listen to your first episode. And you're like, that's what I sound like? Because you never hear your real voice in real life. Because you're inside your ears. Everybody else is outside. You're the only person hearing it from an angle that no one else can hear it from. Between your ears. You know, when you hear your voice for the first time, you go, oh, geez, that's what I sound like. Then you see yourself, you're like, oh, God. And then, like, and you're like, oh, my thoughts are so stupid. And that's like those are like the first hurdles of humility. And then you get over those. And then you get over, like, bad podcasts. And there's so many hurdles of just, like, slowly just tearing away the ego. That, like, the closer you get to the center, you're just like, I kind of want to be proven wrong. Like, it's almost fun. You're like, because I'm just trying to get to, like, the truth of whatever it is, whatever the world is, whatever the universe is. And it's less of, like, I have to have the right stamp. Oh, fuck, should I go delete that video from a year ago? I said no, you're just, like, you're just trying to get close. When you're playing a video game, and you keep failing a mission, you don't go, I can't let anybody see that failure. No, you're playing with your friends. You're like, okay, we tried that tactic. What if we shifted this one? And nobody's, like, laughing at each other. You're just like, you're both trying to get to the objective. And then when you finally get it, you fucking cheer. And when you have a new friend comes in and plays the video game, you don't laugh at them. You go, oh yeah, dude, that's a bitch of a fucking level. You figure it out though. So you stop trying to beat everybody and put a point in the W column and own somebody and screenshot them and look at this idiot. I proved him wrong. Blah, 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 blah. And you just start trying to like get to whatever the core of all of this is. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
Oh, yeah, it's perfect, man. I like it. I think I once heard a really good quote that said, the purpose of an argument is not to win or lose, it's to solve a problem.
Yeah.
Right? And like that's such beautiful, like that's really good relationship advice too, because when you're in a relationship, sometimes you're so heated or the kid's not sleeping, or you've got this fucking bills coming and shit's not going the way you want it. And we hurt the people closest to us. But sometimes you find yourself in an argument with somebody you love, or even on a podcast or a friend or something, and you're just arguing, and all of a sudden you think you have to win. And it's like, wait a minute, this is a person I care about. And if you're on a podcast with somebody, you care about them somewhat. So the objective should be to rise above right and wrong. And I think so many of us get caught right there. But yeah, I think that the objective should be to solve a problem, or at least shed light on a point that is opposite of yours. And
And
sometimes I think that the Trump versus Biden, a lot of those people are the same people, but the mirror image of one another.
They're the same goddamn people. They absolutely are. What do we all want? Nobody wants an unarmed black guy to get shot. If there are people that want that, fuck them. Nobody wants to be thrown off healthcare. Nobody wants America to have a weak military. Nobody wants the borders to be raped. We're all looking at it in different ways. Some people are going, hey, we got to let them in. Other people are saying, yeah, we got to let them in. There's got to be a process. Other people are going, no, they're suffering. Just let them in. Some people are going, yeah, the reason why we need these taxes is so we have better schools. Other people are saying, no. We got to have less so we can have private. But what do we still want? We still want a good school for your kid. The police should be more armed. They should be less armed. Well, what do we all want? We want there to be fucking less crime. We're all just trying to get there in a different method. That's all it is. So we're all trying to approach it in a different way. They're all the same people. And to what you said about shedding light on a problem, just yesterday I had on Ron Moeller and Dale Comstock, two OGA guys. They always say OGA. They technically have to. I can say it. CIA, the tip of the spear. Goddamn black ops. And they kind of went on this whole thing about like why America's fucked. And although I kind of agreed with them, towards the end I was like, well, I'm going to take the devil's advocate position, because otherwise we're all just sitting here jerking each other off. And there is nothing of value there. Let's say you love Tommy's podcast, and I love Tommy's podcast. If we sit here and go, yeah, it's great, it's perfect, you don't have to watch the episode because you already know what it is. They're agreeing with you. Like the color blue? I like the color blue. The sky is blue. The water's blue. That's what I'm saying. Great. Happy you're happy. There's no point in watching it. Nothing's being tackled. Nothing's being approached. That's fine. That's fine, but it's nothing worth watching. So they're going on about like why it's all over. And I was like, all right, I'm now going to take a devil's advocate position and explain maybe why it wasn't. But I do that all the time because, right, you and I are talking about now to shed light on a problem. If you can't solve the problem, at least shed light on the problem. That's all well and good to say. The only way to do it is to lead by example. Because if you say, hey guys, let's maybe all like drop our egos and be vulnerable, right? Yeah, who's first? Yeah, go fuck yourself. Which is why you have to say, hey, I really fucked up here and I don't necessarily believe this, but what if XYZ? Normally someone else will go, well, like, he kind of made the fool of himself first, so fuck it, I'll be the next fool. It won't be as bad as the first fool. Because otherwise, what is and that's the thing, is like every conversation doesn't have to like be a project that has a solution. Like it's specifically like for podcasting. Like I'm going up to New Hampshire to like visit my family for 4th of July. Yeah, I'm going to have conversations with my brother and we're just going to talk about his dog. Like and that's perfect. It doesn't need to be like, well, what have we concluded today about Southeast? No, it's okay it's more than okay. I have a gaming channel. There's nothing of value on the gaming channel. People are like, you should try to improve it. I'm like, no, I work on TPC. My gaming channel is it's the fucking shit on the floor that I sweep up and go, here's another channel. There's nothing of value. The audio's terrible. There are long breaks. You think the pee breaks from TPC are bad? I'll fucking just leave the gaming channel for an hour. It's just rolling. And I'll be like, I need to go get food. And just come back an hour and a half later and be like, all right, where were we? And just start playing. And that's also okay, right? It doesn't have to be, well, let's come at each other with alternative ideas. Like, no, sometimes it can just be like, do you think the Azov battalion's fucking each other in the ass? Like, maybe. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't. Let's start that fake news. I'm down with that. There's nothing of value coming from there, and that's fine. So I also kind of wanted to make that, like, not every conversation has to be like because that's the pre-med mindset. Everything has to be work. No, no. It's okay to just sit there and just talk nonsense with your friends. What I'm talking about specifically is for the unique position that I'm in relative to all people, and that I am a subsection of society that specifically has a camera and a microphone to have these conversations, right? I'm going out to get Dr. Malone because Bob working at Smoothie King doesn't get to ask him these questions. And everything you see on the news is canned. So instead you bring him on and you're like, is Fauci a Nazi? And you're just like, and nobody else was asking him this. Did you see this? They're not asking him that on CNN. Cool. And how many interviews have you seen a guy on the moon that you're just like, hey, can I just ask you, what do you freak out when you're up there? And he was like, yeah, you're just like, I'm on the moon. And I'm like, I thought that's what it would be like. So like for the very like niche thing that I'm in and where I am producing videos for people to watch, I do think that you have to almost, there is almost sort of like a moral, or not to sound like some high-minded jack off, but there is sort of like a, you got to present it a certain way. And again, as much as you get shit on, I mean, I started watching Joe Rogan in December 2011. Like right after he started, back when he was just the Fear Factor guy. And like the amount I've seen him change and just like allow other ideas to float out there and not pigeonhole himself into one thing. You can tell when he disagrees with someone, he'll just be like, sure. And people are like, yeah, well, he's a fencer. I'm like, hey, there's a reason why he's the biggest thing on the planet. It's almost like the free market of the globe has decided we like it when we can respectfully share ideas. And then on the same term, you can also have an episode where they just get shit-faced and talk bullshit. I don't really know where I'm going with this now. Hey, do you care if I go to the bathroom real quick?
Yeah, handle it, brother. Handle it.
I was going to say take it over, but it's your podcast. Do what the fuck you want.
Yeah. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. We've been talking to Tommy Carrigan here, and there's some parts that we haven't got into yet. He was, for those that don't know, he was censored from YouTube. He was one of the first people to come out with Dr. Malone and talk about the mandates and COVID and all these things that were kind of taboo to talk about. And so I think he had, we'll get him to talk about when he comes back, but I think he had 5,000 subscribers, does this show that is, one of these things you're not supposed to talk about. Lo and behold, comes back and ends up, getting the YouTube email or whatever it is that comes that way and says, hey, we're going to have to let you go. So I think there's something that happens there when you're faced with adversity and potentially even a paycheck or something you're building, and you come up against this obstacle that says, okay, well, you can't do it from here. So I think that there's a question of integrity and responsibility there. You ever think to yourself, like, what would I do faced in a situation where I don't have, or I have to make a choice? I think when you get to that particular point, you have to make a choice. Am I going to do what they tell me to do? Or am I going to take the paycheck and be censored? And we got him back here. We'll ask him. Tommy, I was just telling the audience a little bit about, you start this channel, you've made these moves. All of a sudden, bam, we're smacked with COVID. We've got Dr. Fauci blowing us up. We've got propaganda all over the place. You got 5,000, your channel's beginning to blow up, and then you get smacked with a censor notice and told, hey, you got to shut up about this stuff or we're going to cancel you. I got to think that is something that changes the way you run your game. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I always try to explain like the kind of like how big that was in my life. I mean, relatively. I mean, most people in the world are starving. You don't have access to clean water.
Right.
I get the relativeness. But when I tell people, I'm like, yeah, dude, I got censored. They're like, yeah, I mean, it's whatever. But I think maybe you and your listeners can kind of get a grasp for it. I've now told you from August, on my birthday, August 7th, 2010, when I got too high in the frat house, till now, you see the immense weight and importance in like dodging suicide and like moving out of my parents' house and reestablishing a life through the podcast. You see that it's not just like, oh, it's just a pet project. It's just a cool thing you're doing. Like, you chose to get censored. Like, no, this was I'm on an island in the middle of the ocean, and for 5 years I've been constructing a raft out of bottles and coconuts and shit, and it's finally working. It's not just a little toy I made. It's like I'm going back to the mainland. I've been stranded at home. It's so beyond important that to then immediately be like, have like a moral stress test.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to interview these guys. I just want to talk about election fraud, if it did or did not happen. I just want to talk about COVID. Is it or is it not lab made? Are the vaccines good or are they bad, or is it somewhere in between? Are there alternative treatments or are they not? And then not just speculating, but going, okay, let's actually get voices of reason on this, because I am not a doctor. As much as I like to jerk myself off to the fact that I got into medical school, I'm not a fucking doctor. So get on doctors. And then you start to get censored. And it's like, oh, this sort of abstract idea of free speech. You're like, oh, fuck, I actually have to, like, it's just supposed to be this thing that you see, like, inscribed on old statues under Ben Franklin or some shit. And you're like, oh, fuck, I actually have to, like, stand up for it. You're like, someone else should stand up for it. And it's like, well, no, that's just, like, a personal thing. Like, if you want to see change, you have to be it. You can't, fuck off. You can't kick it up to someone higher. That's pussy shit. It's like, okay. One, it's just like my own sort of hard-headedness. Like, don't tell me I can't do this. I remember when I went and saw my advisor the day after I got too high, and she said, maybe you should think about something else, because maybe you're not cut out to get into medical school. And I was like, all right, fucking remember this. This is how it is. You can't do that. It's like, noted. Thank you. I will fucking I will bulldoze the world in your name. Like,
you're the first person I'll show.
Yeah, I'll fucking conquer this person. And they don't even know it. To them, it's just a random thing. They're just like, I was trying to help out the student. Little do they know I, like, set out a vendetta.
Right. I know that part in your head are like, okay, fuck this person. Yeah, how dare you?
But, like, but that being said, so there's, like, that aspect. Just fuck off. Don't tell me I can't talk about that. Tied in with, like, a weird thing where I was like, I also do respect that there are private. This is where, again, we're living, like, the gray area. Like, I'm not just like, oh, fuck that, but I'm like, it is a private company. Like, that is the conservative in me. I'm like, it's very much a private. I still say that. People are like, dude, you're a total cuck for them. I'm like, they are a private goddamn company. I still, what is it, June 30th, 2022, I'll still say, it's been almost a year since I was banned, and they are an evil Marxist piece of shit, but they're a private one, all right? And they are. And if, and again, that's sort of like a contradiction where, like, conservatives will be like, they need to be broken up. No, they don't. They're a private fucking company. You just don't like them because they're not on your side now. Just eat a dick. All right? So in 10 years, when Rumble's the biggest and the liberals don't like it, you can still say and earnestly say, hey, it's a private company. If you don't defend it now, you can't defend it in the future or in the past. But that also goes for the value of free speech. So I personally have to go, okay, it is a private company. I also don't like the idea of censorship, which means I have to keep speaking the truth. And so it was like so the importance of the podcast to me. It's not just a thing. It's like, this is my venue out of my life. And having failed thing after thing after thing after thing, Photoshop, writing, blah, 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 just always stuck at home, almost moving out, stuck at home, just year after year after year after, year after year after year. You go crazy when you're 18 and you're ready to move out. I was fucking in my 30s. You come to this thing where it's like, you have to see where you stand. And there's nothing wrong with, maybe you're just a gaming channel and you're like, dude, I don't give a fuck. That's fine. It's whatever. But you have a temptation to say, I'll bend the knee now because I need to move out. I need to grow the podcast. And when I'm bigger and I can fight back, that's when I'll do it. Okay, yeah, that's a nice little lie you tell yourself, right? Yeah, I'm going to get to it tomorrow. I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow. I'm going to stop eating shit today. I'm going to stop eating shit tomorrow. Tomorrow we're cleaning the apartment. Tomorrow we're doing this. Tomorrow we're changing our habits. No, you're fucking not. If you have a New Year's resolution, start today, June 30th. Seriously, if you have because if you can't do it today, you cannot do it on January 1st when it's cold and it's right after Christmas and you're hungover. How the fuck? You have a New Year's resolution, start it today. Not even tomorrow. Start it today. Because if you can't start today, when today comes, you'll never be able to do it. So go fuck yourself. So I was like, Rogan should do it. Or, well, he did do it because he's signing this, Spotify deal. Or PewDiePie should do it. And then you're like, hey, you have to operate now. Because if you're making $100 million, why would you not have the same logic? Hey, man, I'm making fucking killer cash right now. I'll wait till I'm a billionaire. No, you never will. You never will. So it's like laying a foundation. You have to do it correct now. And I just decided, I was like, when I have nothing and I'm clawing to build this podcast, I still have to stand where I stand, despite as open as I am about agreeing to disagree, hearing your blah, blah, blah. It's a very, on the surface, appears a very relaxed, kind of laissez-faire thing. There is a foundation, and it's one, you can't be hurting anybody, physically hurting. You're allowed to call someone a retard. I don't give a shit. No physically hurting or calling for violence, but also, I will never censor anything. I will never censor anything. And if I'm not going to do that now, how in the ever-living fuck am I going to do it when all of a sudden I'm having cash dangled over my face? So I just kind of was like, maybe this sinks the ship. Well, I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to... And it really was like some sort of like Japanese suicide bomber. Like, I knew I was getting banned. I got the second suspension, and I was like, all right, and I'm not going to stop interviewing these people. I got the third, and I was like, I know the next one's it. I know the next one's it. But I was like, I can't not. And I also knew, logically, I was like, my first suspension was actually for election fraud. Now they're moving it to COVID. The fact that it went from one thing to two things, when it goes to any topic that allows you to get suspension, you now know censorship's on the table. When they add a second topic, you now know that it's a potentially growing list, which you then have to assume has the potential to go to infinity. So maybe you're okay with shutting up about election fraud. Maybe you're okay with shutting up about COVID. It's going to keep going. Now, I've been off YouTube for almost a year, but there are certain Ukrainian war crimes that you will now, I didn't know this, you will get suspended if you discuss. There are parts of the Ukrainian-Russian war that you can't discuss. So eventually you come to the pass where you're going to have to stand up for it. And from that point of view, my logic was also, well, let's just get nuked now. And go. It sucks to get nuked at 5,000. Well, what if I'm at 50,000? So at a certain point it was like, hey, it's like when you start to drive somewhere for vacation, you're about to drive for 5 hours, and you're a mile down the road, and you realize you forgot something. And you're like, just turn around. I know it sucks. Just turn around and get it, because we're going to have to turn around either now or in 100 miles. Just fucking turn around. And you go back and you get whatever the fuck it is. So that was a huge kind of test of who I was to me. And that's really all I gave. It wasn't about like, everybody else, look how moral and ethical I am. Like, I don't give, nobody gives a shit. But it was like for me. Like, I did it and I got suspended and I went to Rumble. And at that point, I had like 100 subscribers because I had just been passively uploading. And, part of me wanted to blow my fucking brains out. But like the other part of me was like, I could sit back on like a Friday and have a beer and be like, man, at least I'm a real one. Yeah, I know I did that. I don't give a shit. I know that I am what I say I am. And now it took so that was September 1st, 2020, no, 2021. So December 12th, 2019 to September 1st, 2021 was that a year and 21 months? 21 months to get to 5,000 subscribers. In When are we now coming on July, August, September, right? Now we're coming up on 10 months on Rumble, 21 months YouTube, 5,000 subscribers. 21 months on YouTube, 5,000 subscribers and 350,000 views. 10 months on Rumble, 10,500 subscribers, 2.9 million views. It's also worked out. Like, what normally that doesn't happen. You do the right thing and you get fucked for it. In this case, I did the right thing and it's actually worked out wildly in my favor. Not even because of people were like, oh, he did the... No, it's just I went to a place that I wasn't getting like suspended and pressured and censored on. So that was a gigantic turning point for me. It was like, oh, I'm willing to... And maybe that comes back to getting into medical school and then saying, it's turning around on the road trip. I had gone 4 years into the road trip and said, I don't think I'm happy here, so let's just fucking nix this thing now. And that sucked. But who knows? Maybe that actually helped me let the channel get nuked. So I was like, what, 21 months? That's nothing. I spent 5 years at home. I'll fucking do it again. I don't give a shit. It took 4 years to get into medical school. I'll fucking get back at this thing. I think the first video I uploaded when I got banned from YouTube was just like I uploaded on like one Rumble video. It almost looks like a fucking like Osama bin Laden message. I'm just like staring at the camera. But I remember saying, I like read off the stats of where I was at the time. I was like, I have 109 subscribers. And I like looked at the camera and I was like, YouTube, I will fucking eviscerate you. I will come back 10 times stronger. And right now I'm at 2 times stronger, 10,000.
Right.
I'm going to come back 100 times stronger. I don't really know if I answered your question or if that really was a question, but yeah, that was a huge turning point that I really don't think most people can understand like the weight of, because it wasn't just a YouTube channel. It was like, dude, medical school, like heartbreak, losing a sibling to suicide, like so many things were riding on this. And I can like happily and proudly say like, yeah, I still was like, no, fuck censorship. So that feels cool.
Yeah, that's way more than to everybody listening. I just want to point this out, and maybe they'll agree or maybe they won't agree, and maybe you will. I think you will. It's more than a channel, and it's more than a piece of work. It's a strategy for life. And like, I think you're right when you said you were in medical school and you went to 5 years before you turned around. And each time, maybe you did writing for 6 months and then you turned around. But each time you were building muscle, you were building this experience to say, hey, like, I can't keep getting burned by the same fucking match. I know it's fucking hot. I can't get burned by that again. And you finally get to a point where you're like, I've had enough. Never again. I'm fucking pulling myself out of this goddamn hole, and we're gonna make it happen. And I think you've told other stories about some huge wins that came from that by maybe seeking out certain guests that you're like, I don't even have a shot at this guest, but because you mentioned to them, hey, I stood up for my values.
From YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, can you share that story with some people?
Well, I mean, that's happened multiple times.
Nice.
So, like, yeah, this, like, I got Dr. Malone the first time I got him was, like, just a fluke. But I remember, like, he emailed me back the second time, and he was like, hey, I was like, would you think about coming on again? He was like, yeah, I can't find the link for the first one. It says the account was terminated. And I was like, funny thing about that is it was. That's the funny thing about the link saying it was terminated is it was terminated, right? But I remember he was like, well, that's a badge of honor. He was like, I'd be proud to come on again. I was like, oh. Mind you, this is still 6 months before Rogan had him on. I had him on 4 times before Rogan ever had him on. And the White House never called me out. There's no such thing as bad PR. Rogan, I think he said his like subscriber count doubled during the whole like COVID like attack on him. Not for me. I got fucking banned from YouTube. But no, like that worked. So Steve Kirsch. I'm sure you've heard that name. That guy invented the mouse. He's like a billionaire, but he's like a huge voice up against this. He was on like the OG podcast with Dr. Malone and Brett Weinstein. I got him on. And the only way I got him on is he was like banned from YouTube. He was like, that's impressive. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, man. And like now it's becoming more and more a thing where everyone's starting to get banned. But I was like one of the like original just like kamikazes was just like like dicks out, middle fingers up, like Benjamin Franklin, like Thomas Jefferson, eat a dick, I'm out, eagle, like, you know, got banned. But that did work. Some other guys that have come on because of that, big Richard Rhodes, he came on, he was just like, well, censorship's despicable. And I was like, indeed it is. All the doctors, Dr. McCullough, Dr. Fareed, Dr. Nass, Dr. Urso, Dr. Merrick, Dr. Alabek, head of the Soviet Union bioweapon program. Well, he came on before I got banned. But like all of these guys were like, oh yeah, no, like, okay, yeah, I'll come on. Yeah, like censorship's, like Yale and Harvard professors who are wildly liberal and don't agree with a goddamn word I said. But they were like, hey, like, you know, as like journalists, they were like, censorship is just deplorable. And they're like, yeah, I'll come on. And I never knew that was going to happen. I actually, in my like template email that I sent to potential guests, there's actually like the second half of it. Got an eyelash in my eye. The second half of it is like, why is the podcast not on YouTube? Because like you do have to address that. Because it's a weird, you know, like Star of David you're kind of wearing. You're like, hey, I'm not on YouTube. Like, no, I wasn't on there for like saying the N-word. I wasn't on there for like having because people have also asked that, like, hey, why aren't you on YouTube? Like, what podcast am I throwing my name in with? Right. I won't say who, but several people, understandably so, have been like, well, how come you're banned? Like, I need to know why you're banned. You need to send me the episode of why you're banned, which I completely get, because who in their right mind gets banned from YouTube? Well, you send them the episode and they're like, that was it? And yeah, that was it. It was like Dr. McCullough talking about turmeric. Like, they're like, what? I'm like, I don't know what else. I can send you the other ones. Here's Dr. Malone talking about peptides. And they're all looking for like, where's the Sig Heil? And I'm like, I don't know, in Germany? Like, but like, so, but that's the thing is like, it was such like a weird weight around my neck that like half of the email, like it always starts with like, hey, this is who I am. This is why I should come on here. Some notable guests I have. Then there's like this giant bold disclaimer, like, why isn't the podcast on YouTube? And you're like, well, I did this and I did this. And you have to like tell them your credentials and be like, you know, I got into medical school. I was interviewing these doctors. But now no one really cares about that. Now they're just kind of like, yeah, it's cool that you got banned. So that's helped. I always suspected, but now I know. It wasn't just censorship. It was also shadow banning and putting their thumb on the scale. It makes no sense that in 21 months you get 350,000 views. And then on Rumble, in a third of the time, on a platform with like 1/100th of the user base, I get 10 times the views. The math does not add up. 1/100th of the user base, 1/3 of the time, 10 times the views. No part of that adds up. Unless, of course, the only other conclusion is oh, you were being shadow banned or you were being artificially suppressed. So that's been a huge thing. And that's really helped me. It's like seeing the podcast actually grow. Like seeing like the numbers growing like in a free kind of market way. It's invigorating and it allows you to work harder. You're really depressed when you're knocking out podcasts left and right and you've been at 1,831 subscribers for 117 straight days. And you're like, how is this even possible? Just like the laws of averages, someone should have unsubscribed, right? Shouldn't someone have stumbled upon it? So that's been a huge thing. So it's, it's a win for me. Like I knew that I stood up for the right thing. It's a win in that I got a lot of guests that I never would have gotten. It's a win for me in that more and more people are getting banned. And now I get to say I was one of the OGs. And it's really helped me in that the podcast is just growing because there is a reciprocal cycle where the podcast grows and you get invigorated to go get bigger guests. And then the podcast grows more and you work harder and, the mornings aren't as tiring and you work through it. It's, anyone can work on the podcast when it's just banging left and right and you're getting subscribers and you're having on this guy and that guy and this guy. You don't see like the 2 years of just crushing nihilism of just like, what am I doing with my fucking life? I got into medical school. What am I doing? Why am I interviewing a guy about laser printers on beer boxes above my parents' garage? And you're like, how it's like, how hard would it be to kill myself? And you're like, and you just start, but it's sort of, and even now I'm not like happy with where it is because I, want it to be bigger and better. But it's really been nothing but good has come out of it. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. That's huge. I think it helps people to hear the story because for everybody that doesn't give up, there's probably 100 people that do give up. And if you can maybe reach out and grab 3 of those people that are talented and be like, look, don't give up here because here's what can happen. If you're willing to push through your comfort zone and make things work, then this can happen. Here's a guy that did it. And I think that younger people seeing this, that'll be bigger and better, hopefully, than all of us at some point in time. That's something to think about too, Tommy, is doing what you're doing now and podcasting. It kind of gives you a window into the past that's visceral. Like you can see yourself talking to people a year ago or 2 years ago, and you can see it's a weird way to notice time.
Yeah, who else has video documentation of themselves every day?
Yeah, and it, like you said, it's also a blessing and a curse because you're forced to look back and be like, oh God, did I really say that? Jesus Christ, what a dummy! I can't even listen to it. Just turn it off. I won't listen to it. And then but then on the same token, you're like, okay, here's what I'm going to do moving forward, which gives you this weird window into the future. And here you are right now talking to me, this window, like a virtual window right now into your life that people are watching and being part of. So, man, I could talk to you for another 2 hours, Tommy. I'm super thankful that you came. I got to go drive a truck right now for a good 10 hours. But I really appreciate it.
I thought you were in Hawaii.
I am.
Oh, wait. I don't know why in my mind I immediately was like, can you drive for 10 hours straight in Hawaii thinking that you're just going in a straight line? No, you're probably doing things with Jesus Christ.
A UPS driver. So I'm delivering packages for this and that. And
I'm trying to sit here talking about being smart. And then I'm like, you can't drive for 10 hours in Hawaii. No, you can. You can drive 10 hours in a town if you just keep going back and forth. Come on, Tommy, baby steps.
Sometimes the traffic here is like, I was born and raised in California, and the 405, the 5 can be brutal. But sometimes in Hawaii, it can take you 4 hours to go 40 miles. You just sit because sometimes there's only a few arteries, and if one of them breaks, everybody uses this one. So the infrastructure here is a very interesting place.
I applied to med school in Hawaii, didn't get an interview.
You should think about moving out here, man. Like I know it sounds crazy.
No, that was actually
change your life.
That was actually a thing that was like on my mind for several years. Actually, was moving to Hawaii just to say like fuck it.
Yeah,
but
you learn a lot.
My parents and family live in New England, and I kind of want to be near them. I don't like the idea of like one day waking up and realizing they're 90 and they're gone. But I also kind of want to live in Hawaii. Like there's just this weird, I don't know.
Well, I think it goes with some of the goals you were talking to Mr. Ford about yesterday, about some of the ideas of wanting to have all these things of like,
oh, no.
On one hand.
Yes. And that's that's honest. No, that's one of the things was like shirking medical school, shirking all this stuff. You start to like you're like, as you kind of come to terms with like, we're just going for it. Yeah. Not like, well, I'm going to put one toe in and maybe if the channel works. When you're finally like, fuck it, move home, lose the girlfriend, lose the friends, lose autonomy, get banned from YouTube. You have nothing. I mean, I have no pets. I have no girlfriend. I have no kids. I have no debts.
Responsibilities.
I have a 700 square foot apartment. I am free to do whatever I want. And like a retard, I sit in a room next to a mile from a Walmart podcasting. That's what I do with my freedom. But like, there is part of me that's like, I have to go just like, what do you do? You're like, I would go for like fame, fortune. Where else would you live? Fucking Hawaii. Like, you kind of reach this like almost terminal cancer point of mind where you're like, it's all over tomorrow. So
do it. Come out here.
From that
point of view, I hope you don't like hot, aggressive, exotic girls because they're out here. So probably don't want.
Well, the thing is, I hate the sun and I hate the heat. So I will be sitting in like an air conditioned apartment in Hawaii. But there would be a cool flex about being in Hawaii. One of my friends moved out there from college, and I'm fucking jealous. I don't know. There or somewhere in New England, I'll go.
Come visit. You could do your podcast. You could come out here and do like a visiting podcast. We're like, yeah, I'm on location today for a week. You know what I mean?
And then by a great white shark.
It's over from there.
I'll get eaten by a shark. That would be a great ending of this podcast.
Well, you're already messing with all the geese all the time. You might as well start
Oh, my
flexing on some
fucking
sharks.
goose militia, dude. That goddamn militia. I keep uploading videos every day on Twitter just so I want the FBI to have to constantly be checking in on me because I'm using the term militia. That's why I used to like goose militia. They see a guy that constantly posts about a militia and it's also interviewing CIA operatives. I just know that I'm making some intern's life hell. He's doing the goose thing again. And there's some guy that's like, what does it mean? This is comms. What does he do? And it's just me walking around like waiting for the caffeine to kick in before the gym. I'm like, yeah. There's a meaning to this. What are the ducks? What does that stand for?
Exactly. He's talking to these OG guys. Did he make any signs? You see his hand? Was there a signal in there? What kind of code words did he use?
What are they doing? What are they? Does it mean when the geese flies at midnight? What does that mean?
Yeah.
It means nothing, bro. I'm fucking throwing bread to geese on the way to the gym.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna continue to call it a militia.
It's so awesome.
Just so it pings their servers. But yeah, I will let you go. Hey man, it was a pleasure coming on here. Please send me the link when it's up.
Yeah, I'll send you all the stuff, and the way I see it, everything we did on here is as much yours as mine. So I'll give you all the stuff. Feel free to clip it or whatever you want to do.
Beautiful.
It's yours as much mine. And I hope you'll come back again sometime and we can help solve the world's problems.
I'd love to, man. I'd love to have you on mine. That would be fun as fuck. We shoot the shit, and
I'd love to.
As you can tell, there's truly no agenda. It's just
such is life, right?
Just dicks out, and talking. Just let her run. But I have to ask you,
agreed.
What's over your shoulder? Is that a 3D printer?
Yeah, it is. It's a 3D printer over there. My daughter is in second grade, and so what better way to show her the limitless possibilities by, hey, sure. What do you want to print? We got a project coming up. Let's print this thing. Yeah. And you got the big map back there. What better way to show a kid like, hey, look at this thing over here. Here's where we live. Here's how far it is over here. Hey, we can draw some boats on here. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm a pretty big conspiracy guy, and I like
Atlantis. I like it.
Yeah, and you can start doing a little bit of research, and
it's fun.
It's super fun. I drew this. There's a interesting book about this guy Olaf Johansson, and he took this trip to the center of the earth, but he was this old guy, and on his deathbed, he gave an account of him and I believe he was Norwegian, and him and his father, just fishing up in Franz Josef land, like way at the top. And it's so beautiful, these stories that people tell, be them conspiracies or imagination or fiction or nonfiction. Some of them are so beautiful and so elegant. And it's like you can interact with them if you have a map, and you can put that in the mind of a child and begin to use her imagination as a springboard for success later in life. You know what I mean? And that's my map over there.
Yeah, no, me and my buddy in college, we had this table with a glass top, and we had a huge map. We decided to just put it onto the table. So it just kind of looked cool.
Yeah.
But just over the year, just kind of sitting at the table and sitting at different chairs, you never quite realize you kind of think you understand the world, but as you start looking more and more at things, you're like, what is this supposed to? Yeah, I remember one of the places we looked at was on the northernmost point of Ellesmere Island above Canada. It's a place called Alert. It's the highest permanently inhabited town in the world. It's called Alert, Canada. And it's actually, ironically enough, where the NSA has had listening posts for 70 years. It's because it's the closest place to Russia that you can get. But just little shit like that. How the fuck else do you learn about Alert, Canada? That's all I got on that point. There was I don't know. I was building it up to be some in-depth story. Nope. There's a place called Alert. The end.
But there's so much that comes out of it because, think about maps. It's not just a geography, but we have mental maps that we make of the world. We have neural networks that are maps. Everything's kind of a map if you think about it. And if you can begin to see this as a foundation, then you can use the world as a map. You can use your actions as a map. You can use your communications as a map. You can map out everything. You can map out your future. You can map out your past. You can map out where you are right now. You can map out where you want to be. You can map out the person that you want to become. And I think that especially, I've learned so much from maps. And what's amazing? You go back and you look at an old map with goddamn sea monsters on, boats and stuff. You know what I mean?
They're here be the mountains of glory. And you're like, what's that even? No. What is that?
Yeah. And they're kind of congruent. Old maps are kind of congruent with the way we think. If you look like the Pi Res map, the only discovered this much.
1513,
Yeah, and so
Man, that's
if
a
that's
fucking
true, if
rabbit
in the
hole and a
past
half.
we had these bad maps, might it also be true that in the map we're looking at now is bad? The same way that we thought planets were encased in glass or that we were the center of the universe.
Oh yeah.
If we know that those maps are wrong, isn't it probably true that the mental maps we have right now are wrong? Like they've always been wrong.
Well,
So why wouldn't this one be wrong?
That's back to the whole keep your mind open. It's
Bingo.
like,
Yeah.
how am I certain that I have the correct model? Always be questioning your own model. Like,
You
well,
have
this
to.
and this, and it's like, no, question the very basis of your model. It's like when people like randomly use a cliche, like a statement, as if it's a point. Like, well, you know, early bird gets the worm. And you're like, that's just because everyone knows what that means doesn't mean that that's a point.
Yeah.
It would be like, reality has a liberal tint. You'd be like, okay, cool little like gotcha moment that you see on a postcard. What is your argument? You know, they're like, what goes around comes around. I'm like, sure, everyone has heard that before. That didn't necessarily work out. Like the top Nazis got to come live in America. It doesn't always go around, come around. You know, like it all.
What do you think of the?
It all comes
I'm
out in
sorry.
the end. I'm like, it doesn't all come out in the end. Sometimes the memo gets burned and the secret dies with the agency, and no one really knows who killed them.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's just one thing. So the
No,
model
it's
is like
good.
the model is like just because it's like a, you know, well, you know what they say, like a penny found is a penny. That doesn't apply to this. How come none of the bankers from 2008 are in jail? You know, they're like, well, you know, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is. It's like, who the stop fucking That's just
Yeah, those are beautiful. There's so much there.
That's just a little pet peeve of mine when people try to use a well-known phrase as some sort of ending to an argument. It's just
like that sums everything up, right?
Yeah, it's just, you know, early to bed, early to rise, and it's like I wake up at noon every day and go to bed at 4 a.m. and I work harder than anyone I know. Well, you know, early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and go fuck off. No, it doesn't, douchebag. Yeah, dude, I'd love to come on here again. I'd love to have you on sometime. Yeah, that's all I got. My brain's kind of cooked.
Awesome. I will. I'll reach out to you and I'll shoot you this stuff whenever you got an opening, man. I would be stoked to come on. And if you ever have some downtime, you know, I'll shoot you some dates in a few months or whatever.
Thanks,
and
dude.
if you ever have downtime, hit me up. We'll do this. Definitely try to come out to Hawaii, man. It'll fundamentally change the way you see the world and those in your life if you come out here. I know that sounds crazy, but I did it. I know a lot of people that have done it, and it will. It's beautiful here.
Yeah,
and if you listen closely, Tommy, Hawaii's calling your name. Just listen to the wind, man. It's calling your name. I'm telling you.
It's the Pacific headquarters of the NSA. That's what's
Come on, me.
calling my
I'll show you
name.
where Snowden lived.
Yeah, there's actually a really cool place, kind of back into maps, where the NSA is headquartered there. They have that huge underground compound.
Yeah.
That was originally an underground map making factory in World War II.
I had no idea. I'm gonna write
Fun
that down.
fact. They made maps. They made aircraft, I think, initially, and then maps. And then they stored like armaments there. And then they turned it into a listening post. And then Ed Snowden walked out of there with like a Rubik's Cube or some shit, or whatever the legend is. I don't know. Fucking nothing makes sense. There's no purpose to anything. It just truly I have no idea. Fuck censorship. That's all I got. All right, my man. I got to run too because I got another podcast right after
Handle
this.
it, brother. I'll talk to you soon, man. Thank you for
so
everything.
much
Have
for
a
having
good day.
me. Peace.